Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. Today's video is going to be about my top 10 favorite discontinued eyeshadow palettes. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. In today's video, I'm going to be kicking off eyeshadow palette week. Yes, I thought we could do a themed week in April where I chat about nothing but eyeshadow palettes. So from Monday till Sunday, you're going to be getting some eyeshadow palette related content. So I hope you're here for it. And I thought I could kick things off with chatting to you about eyeshadow palettes that have long since disappeared sometimes, but I still hold very near and dear to my heart. And in case you're new here and this is your first time, then hi, my name is Micah. I have fair skin with a cool undertone, which greatly skews my makeup preferences. And because I have been buying, trying, and reviewing makeup for more than a decade, I also have some very strong favorites. So I hope you're here for that. And if you're into eyeshadow palettes or Essence and Catrice reviews, because that's what I focus on mostly, and also getting the use out of my makeup, then this may be the channel for you. So if you'd like to join the Snow Angel Club, all you need to do is click subscribe down below. So yes, top 10 favorite discontinued eyeshadow palettes. These, of course, you can no longer find, maybe on a place like eBay or Mercari, but I personally do not recommend you buy something that is, for instance, this old, because this is more than a decade old. Of course, sometimes these palettes have like later batch codes, and maybe some of them have been re-released over time. So sometimes things do come back. But I would not advocate for buying older discontinued products. Very often there are comparable products on the market in slightly different, more updated formulas. However, some of these are some of my OGs, and I could never, ever not love these in my collection. So let me start with what is actually on my eyes today, which is why this one is front and center, which is the Urban Decay Naked 2, my OG favorite cool tone neutral palette. If you've been with me for a while, you know how much I love this, but then you will also know that I've rearranged the color story. And if you want to see some more color stories being rearranged, then just stay tuned, because that's something that we will be doing later in the week, because I have some more palettes that I need to try and get more use out of by creating a color story that's more perfect for me. So what this is the Naked 2 and the Naked 3 combined, and actually a lot of the shades on my eyes today were not from the Naked 2, but from the Naked 3, because I used this matte here, and then I also used this shimmer, which was from the Naked 2. This is YDK, which is one of my favorite all-time shimmers. And then I think I used this, which I'm pretty sure is from the Naked 3, this from the Naked 3, and this is also from the Naked 3. So I love the Naked 3 as well, but that wasn't discontinued. So in terms of discontinuedness, the Naked 2 for sure, I have a fresh one of this, which is why I didn't mind messing this up with it being my favorite palette. I still have one that was like released right before it was discontinued that is a lot fresher than this one is. These are my old shades, and this is currently in a project pan to try and see if I can hit pan on some of these shades. And I also just need to like actively go back to this and use it a bit more again. So this sits in my everyday makeup drawer, and whenever I'm feeling a bit stumped or I have a couple of days left in the month where I haven't tried any eyeshadow yet, I always use this one. And this is one of those days because I'm sort of in limbo, because I just filmed my Shop My Stash, so I didn't select any of the new palettes to review yet. I was like, oh, I'll throw this on and a red lip, and I've got like a full black outfit on, and then I think it's going to be a perfect one for today. So yeah, for those everyday basic looks, I still love my Urban Decay Naked 2. I just do. This is one that is being discontinued as we speak. Just the other day, I saw the announcement that Kaleidos is now discontinuing all of their Futurism palettes. They're definitely going to be shifting their brand into a slightly different direction, and this was something they were saying, you know, we're not seeing the sales anymore, so all of the Futurisms are gonna go, which means that the Kaleidos Futurism 5 Electro Turquoise, which is one of my favorite color stories of all time, is disappearing as we speak. So this may be one you can still pick up if you truly were to be committed to that, but here's what it looks like. I mean, yes, the bright orange isn't my favorite, but the turquoisey teals, yeah. And to be quite fair, this orange tone pulls on me like a neutral, so I kind of use this as a crease shade and then deepen it up with the brown, and then it pulls a lot more neutral than you might expect, and it's actually a really nice juxtaposition with the bluey teals that we get in here. So this color story has always been one of my favorites. I'm sad to see it go, but this is not a unique color story. You can definitely find color stories like this still on the market today, and I definitely think if you're into very pigmented eyeshadows, buying one of those bigger Blend Bunny palettes is going to be, it's gonna allow you to do what this smaller palette does for sure. So there are brands that will sell things that allow you to do what this palette does for me. I think Beauty Bay has a couple of them as well, but those aren't my personal favorite formulas. I like things that are a bit more blendable, less pigmentation, but more blendability. That's my spiel, which is why some of these OG favorites are still favorites, because, you know, they just had the formula that I really liked at the time. So yeah, that's what's going on here. Something that's not quite that old though, because this came out in 2022, but it was limited edition collection, and it's from Catrice. It's the Fall in Colors eyeshadow palette. This was limited edition for fall. This is so good, and this is really good formulation as well. I think this was a bit more expensive than most Catrice palettes though. Over here was like 15 euros, but for like, that's what I have to pay for an e.l.f. Earth and Ocean as well. So by comparison, if you compare it to things that are available in the US, it's not that terrible really for me. And if I compare this formula to some of the much more expensive brands that I tried in 2022, this compares. Like, this is on par with a Huda Beauty, with a Natasha Denona, with a Pat McGrath. Like, it's really stunning quality. And I did find a couple of these a couple of weeks ago on Lyko, Lyko. They do ship internationally, and they did still sell the palette, but I'm not sure how many of them are left, or if it's still left at all. But this was my favorite palette of 2022, so how could I not mention it? And it's such a shame that when Catrice does something that's truly good, it's limited edition. Like, what's up with that? What's up with that, Catrice? Another very old thing, The Tribe by Juvia's Place. This is one where I feel like a lot of people didn't understand why it was being discontinued. I'm not sure if the brand is still around, but the reason why I decluttered my OPV Tropical Dreams palette was because it was this palette with some extra shades. So if OPV Beauty still exists and you're looking for a color story like it, there is a palette out there that does exactly the same thing. But I just like this. And I know some people have decluttered it from their collections, but I could never get rid of this because I love all of these shades, save for the two oranges. But this very sort of murky greeny brown is perfect. I love that this bronze has that green flip. Like, that's not like, do you see how it catches the light? This one as well has a duochrome flip. I love the teals in here. I like that brighter green. I like the neon. So this is just a really good green tone palette, and I loved all of the looks I did with it. Do I have other green palettes I like? Yes, but because these are greens that are more teal leaning, I feel they work a lot better for me than like straight up greens, which I do have. But they tend to be always pretty warm toned, and I feel that this has like the really nice sort of combination of like warmer and cooler tones that still work together really well. So I feel this is a very balanced palette, which is why I don't want to get rid of this. And this one came actually back for a hot minute, the Melt Myrte. I think at the end of 2022, after popular demand, this came back in stock, and I think it sold like hotcakes. I'm not sure if they're ever gonna bring it back, but yeah, the Melt Myrte was one that they did bring back for a second there, but I think it was just limited availability, and when it was gone, it was gone. But this is one of my favorite grungy palettes, again with the teals. I love a teal. Teals and taupes, that's where it's at, as you will see in a minute. But this is just a really stunning palette. I really like these navies we get in here. These reddish tones, not necessarily my vibe, but these both have like a plumminess to it, which is why it still works. And then if I blend it out with that strawberry red, it can be a very pretty look indeed. And I feel that the reds go with the blues quite nicely as well. This is just a really stunning palette. I love the Melt formula. and this is just one that was really, really good. And if you do own it, you know. Sadly discontinued, but the Nabla Soul Blooming. This is actually the only Nabla palette that is in like a larger, like I still have a couple of the cutie palettes, but all of the larger palettes I had from Nabla, I've now decluttered. And this is the only one that gets to stay, because look at this. I mean, it's like peachy tones with periwinkles. If this isn't spring, I don't know what is. Like, this is such a good spring color story. It just is. It's perhaps a little bit more warm tone leaning than what I normally go for, but because of those periwinkles, I just live for this thing. The shimmers in here are not necessarily the best. We definitely have some better shimmers like that have come out since then, but I do really like this brown in here as well. It's got this really nice reddish pink undertone, and I definitely want to play with this again. So maybe I should actually put this also on my older palettes I want to go back to pile for April, because it is such a good spring palette. And I only have very small Viseart palettes to play with in terms of new things this month, so I thought I could put some more things into the these are the things I need to go back to category. So this I may want to add to the pile if I still have room. Then, I mentioned taupes, and if there is a light taupe palette that I still don't understand why this is gone. The Zoeva on taupe. My love for Zoeva palettes is pretty well known in the beauty sphere if you've been here before. I keep recommending them, and I don't care how many they've discontinued. I am very curious to see what the quality is like of their new quads, but I have liked myself a Zoeva palette for a very good number of years, and these never disappoint. This palette is very light, which is why a lot of people didn't like it, but look at me, especially if I wear black, I look extra pale, and then I have the white. And my plants are still here, by the way, in case you were wondering. They're still here, they're just in different pots, which is why they're lower down, because they were getting too big. But yeah, this palette is just lovely. And I think that if you were still be able to buy this, this would not sell well, because this doesn't go with what all of the beauty YouTube recommendations tend to go for. These are sheer buildable shades that needed a little bit of time to build up. And as far as, formulations go nowadays, these two shades would probably be a lot more intense if this was in the hands of another brand. But that's the reason why I love Zoeva. They are understated, easy to use eyeshadows, great for every day. This is just, if you're an average consumer, then I think Zoeva eyeshadow palettes are where it's at. This is not for the makeup lover who wants to do very creative Instagram eye looks. It's just not that brand. And I think that set them back in the end. But they are really a brand that are now trying to really sort of hone in on what they're really good at, which is doing things like this. And I was just really sad to see this one go. I mean, it doesn't have, for a taupey palette, it doesn't have a lot of actual taupes. It's mainly these two in the middle. It's pretty gray leaning. It's very light. The peach in here I don't really go for, but it's got some really stunning shades, and I've always appreciated this one. I keep talking about this because it's still that good. And when I went back to this one, because I'm doing this series where I go back to older palettes that I love, and this I used again over the fall season, and I was like, I still love this one. I can't help it. Now, I've talked about a lot of the cool tones and the more colorful things, but warm tones I can get down with because I have a more neutral rather than cool undertone. I just prefer cool tones on myself. But sometimes I have these moods where I just want to whack on something that is warm toned. I can get away with it, and especially if I can have a warm tone that clashes with a purple, and that's when this palette comes into play. The Huda Beauty Desert Dusk is such a stunning palette. It's since been discontinued. I didn't realize this. I thought this was still around, but apparently it's gone now, which sad, because this is one of my favorite warm tones with a pop of purple, but the most underrated part of this palette is the section that nobody ever talked about when this was first released, which is this section, which is the cool toned neutral section. This shade, Cashmere, one of the best light cool tone neutral shades that isn't too cool tone, not too warm toned, but that works really well, especially if you pair it with that matte. This gold, not too much of a yellow tone gold, so I feel I can get away with it. Like, this is the kind of palette, like, if you just stick to these two at the top, you have a super boring, basic, everyday look. Maybe use that brown for a bit of liner. You want to spice it up, you can do that. You can throw in some of the purples. These layer really well. The only shade in here that I don't use is that glitter. But everything else I can use, and it's a really stunning palette. So sad that it's been discontinued, but it just got some really good shades, and I just feel that if this were released today, it again probably wouldn't do very well. This is sort of very 2017 makeup, I feel, which is, I think, when I bought this, 2017, 2018, around that time. So this is a good 5 years old, but I still really like it because I think it just has the best of both worlds, where you have your warm tones, you have some purples, you have some very nice light neutrals. And something I also appreciate with this is that it's not too deep. On me, if shades pull too deep, it just doesn't work, which is why a palette like this is probably going to continue to live in my collection for a while. Another more recent discontinued product is this. This is the Haunted Europe from Nomad. I keep a lot of my Nomad palettes in the boxes, not because I don't usually keep my palettes in boxes, but because like this is just so different from this that I feel I have to keep it. So the Nomad, it's got the shifting packaging, and why they discontinued this, I really don't understand, because this is one of the best palettes that I've tried from Nomad. I feel with Nomad, it really depends on the color story whether I end up liking the palette, yes or no. But I have found that these like 18 pan ginormous ones by them, I like a lot better than some of their other ones. Oh well. And this is, of course, like your grungy cool tones with some warm tones. In a way, it's like the more Halloween version of the Desert Dusk. I now realize. But this has some really stunning shades. I was able to pull some stunning looks out of it. And I think it was discontinued in October. That's when they announced it was going to be gone. So I do really like, you get like your pumpkin patch sort of shades. And you have some like greeny grays in the middle. And your berry purples over here. But this you can use like this, or you can use it as quads, or you can like go this way or this way, and also these shades combine really well with these. So I love when palettes are versatile like that, and a lot of the shades just combine really well. This thing is so ginormous, I can barely hold it. Yeah, this is a really good palette. I really enjoy the color story. This is just good eyeshadow, and it's fun to play around with it, and I'm sad that they've discontinued this one. But yeah, they probably had to make room for something else, because Nomad is another one of those brands. I think they release a new palette every 2 to 3 months, it seems, so they do some really nice, like, regular releases, and then, of course, their older things cannot stay. But yeah, I still really like my... Ooh, there's things falling here. Hold on. But I still really like my Nomad Haunted Europe. And then Natasha Denona Gold. So this, of course, was famously discontinued. I did pop one of the shades from the Lila in here because I didn't like the gold. I mean, it's the gold palette, and I didn't like the yellow tone gold in the middle. But you get some really good neutrals in here. Then it goes a little bit more warm toned, and then it goes into these tealy green shades. Some people call these greens, but I call them teals because to me they're teal. There is some overlap in this one, but it's got some really stunning shimmer shades. This is one that I don't want to get rid of personally. This is one that I was very much influenced to buy because I thought I wasn't going to love this when I first saw it. And then I saw it in Sephora in Paris, and I was like, okay, I'm going to snatch it up. But I was very much influenced to buy this by Hannah Louise Poston, and she's wrecked hers completely, I believe. I think she doesn't still have hers, I think. I think she's decluttered it in one of her declutters recently. But yeah, this has some really stunning shades. I probably don't need to keep all of these shades around forever. But this is probably going to go the way that the Lila has gone, where I've taken shades out and put it with my singles collection. It eventually, like, I'll keep like the these four, probably like those two shimmers perhaps, maybe that shimmer in the middle, who knows. But for now, this palette works really well for me, and I was sad to see it go. It's of course one of the more expensive Natasha Denona palettes. I really feel that Natasha Denona as a brand is very much honing in on that mid-section that she used to do. Like, we used to get the more expensive palettes than the mid-sections and the like mini-sized pans, but now she just really seems to be focusing the brand on these like mid-tier, like around €70 kind of palettes, which I think just sells better than these very expensive things there. You know, you do get a lot of product in here. I think it's 2 grams in every single pan, but who uses up 2 grams of eyeshadow ever? I know I haven't. Those are the eyeshadow palettes that I wanted to feature in today's video. Those are my top 10 favorite discontinued eyeshadow palettes. Leave me yours in a comment down below because I would love to know what your favorite discontinued palettes are. And of course, I hope you'd like to stay tuned because I will be back tomorrow with a new video, and we'll be chatting about number 2 in the eyeshadow palette week. So if you'd like to stay tuned for more, and then I hope to see you in my next video. Bye-bye!